Finally.
Anyways, let's get straight into it. We don't want to waste our time. So I
Yeah.
kind of just tell us what exactly what is sickle cell disorder? What is sickle cell disorder?
All right. Hi everyone, wherever you're listening to us from. It's great to have you on our session. We hope that you pick part of the sessions that are really dear to you and important to you and utilize. So sickle cell is a genetic blood disorder that is caused when two incompatible genotype come together to have an offspring. It is the breaking down of the red blood cell. Everybody, you and I, we have red blood cells. And for sickle cell warriors, their red blood cells lack oxygen at some point. They die off. For every other genotype, like the AA, AS, AC, theirs live for about 100 to 120 days. But for me, as sickle cell warrior, my cells live for like 10 to 20 days. So this is one of the reasons why I may not be as productive as the other person at some given time. It's not every time, but at some given time. Sickle cell is affected mostly by the different country marriages. So it has begun to spread across the globe. And then we have over 700 type of genotype.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, that's like wow. And we're only familiar with a very few of them, like the AA, AS, even
Mm,
AC. Just people started hearing about AC and like maybe like 10 years ago or so. We have the
mm,
SS, we have the SC, we have the SO, we have the S thalassemia, and a whole lot of other variants of genotype. Now for
yeah.
sickle cell, in a
Mm,
case for sickle cell, the most common one is SS and
mm,
followed by the SC. We have other forms of sickle cell that exist in other countries, but in Africa, we have it majorly SS, SC, and a few S thalassemia and the likes. For me, I am HBSS. My parents are both carriers of the S gene. AS,
okay.
AS. They carry the S gene. And so while they were trying to have me, they both donated the S they were carrying. And before now, I used to feel like my sister should be AA because she's very, very strong, rarely fall sick. She can go like 10 years without having to take major drugs like malaria drugs. But realize that she's AS.
Mm,
So for the AS, they have this immunity against malaria. Their S gene helps them to fight malaria. It was in the course of fighting against malaria because you know that malaria dominantly affects the Africans also. Everything is still with the Africans,
and
yes, with the black. So while malaria was trying, so what they were trying to prevent themselves from malaria,
right, okay.
the S gene began to, have mutation and the likes, and we began to have SS, and every other form of sickle cell.
Right.
So basically, sickle cell is just a genetic disorder that is caused when your red blood cells does not have enough oxygen to carry blood, around the body. It's not able to take blood around the body, and anywhere, it could cause any pain. The red blood cell could get clogged at my breast, and I begin to feel pain there. It could be at my eyes, it could be at my finger, and I can't write at that particular time. So that's it.
Mm, wow, wow, wow. That is deep. So there's going to be a lot of nuggets and information, and I want people to really hold on to it. So the first thing she says is it's a blood disorder. That's one thing a lot of people get wrong. And the second thing she says, there's different types. See, I didn't even know that all this blood group existed, but she said that like there's so many, so that's another thing. And she's also said why it is kind of associated with us African people. She said the whole malaria thing, while they were trying to create a cure. And I've never heard that before. Since I've never heard that before.
You don't have malaria in UK now, so you will not be able to hear that.
No, it is well. But you know, so yeah, thank you for that. So now, sis, I want to kind of give you the floor, right? and I want you to share with us your story. I want you to share with us, if you found out like you had this, like if you always knew you had it, when your parents told you, how they told you, how did you respond to it, things like that, sis. So the floor is yours.
All right. So I wanted to correct something. It's not blood group. It's blood genotype.
Blood
Blood
genotype.
genotype. Yes. The blood group is the A positive, the B positive. You want me to resource and O positive and the likes. Yeah. So I found out. Did I really find out, or I knew that
You just
as a child? I think my parents found out at age 2.5. I was going to be 3, and my mom was already pregnant with my younger sister. So they didn't even know that I had sickle cell. But I think I had shown symptoms about when I was 1.5. I passed out while I was having breakfast.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, but on getting to the hospital, baby girl got fine and was playing in the children ward. And
Wow.
doctors were like, "What did you say happened to this child again?" My mom was like, she
Wow.
was eating and she just, went off. Like, this girl is fine. So I went back home. Nothing serious that day, and we went back home. And then the next time, that same incident happened. But this time, by the time I had come back, I held my leg and I was feeling pain and I was crying as a child. So the doctor was like, okay, let's run a genotype test for this child. And we did that, and I came out to be SS, and the journey started. And I'm grateful because my mom is somebody like she's not really educated. She's not a stark illiterate, but she's not learned like school and everything, and then exposure. So she's always open to learning. That's one thing about her. So she began to attend a lot of sickle cell clinic, hospital, even on the days whereby I'm actually fine and I don't need to go to the hospital. She's like, let's just go for checkup. So I started using my drug at a very early age, even though I always like to act funny sometimes. I'll just take the drug somehow and just straight at the back of the chair. She just come back and, have you used your drug? I'm
Oh.
like, I did. Don't lie. Like, I've thrown it away. So you can imagine, as a young child, I was even already tired of taking my routine drug because they are drugs that they should be taken every day. I said earlier on that our red blood cells die off within 10 to 20 days, and it's not easy for our body to produce them back immediately because of other things like stress, and then the body is not actually programmed like that. Your own body would have your red blood cells live for 100 to 120 days. So we have to take our daily routine drugs to help us produce these red blood cells that we need for our everyday activities. So we have the folic acid and B complex, paludrin for prevention of malaria. Yes, so I was always taking my routine drugs. The feeding part. I will say that the feeding part was where my mom got it right for me, because a lot of time these nutrients that you need for your body can be gotten from food. But how often do you take it? So now let me go into growing as an adult. Like when I was 16, 17. Before then, I think my primary school, I always fell into crisis. But one thing about me is that I rarely miss school. So if I come back from school today and I have a pain and I'm tired, I would take my routine drugs, I would sleep, I would rest. My mom is a house arrest. She's a police officer in the house. She doesn't allow me go out. I'm on house arrest. I don't have to, I can't play with other children. It didn't stigmatize against, it wasn't stigma for me. I could relate. She was trying to protect me, that you could go out and play now and they could enjoy you and stuff like that. So I think my playmate was my sister growing up. So we had ball in the house. The entire wall was filled with alphabets,
Oh.
toys. Just stay indoor and play your play. Even though it was not a very, very big house, but stay indoor and just have your fun. If we
But
are going, yes. And then I always felt ill, but going to school the next day, I'll wake up as my sister dressed up. I'm like, I want to go to school too. I'm like, are you strong? I'm like, don't worry, I'm fine. I will not fall sick in school. But by the time we're already in like the half period, probably after break time, I'll find myself at the sick bay resting. And luckily for me, the nurse in my primary school sick lobby, is actually a certified nurse that also deals with sickle cell warriors. She has a child who lives with sickle cell too. So she was able to take care of me and relate with the water intake, the fruits, the food, the drug, and everything. I'm moving on to secondary school, like when I grew into like 10, 11, 12. It was, I think I wasn't this friendly my GSS 1 to GS 3. People stigmatized not me, but there was a classmate of mine who was also living with sickle cell, and she looked so pale. I was chubby in secondary school, so you would really not know, I was very busty, I was baby fat, everything sha. So but for her, she was looking so pale and tiny, and people always like, don't touch her, oh, let her not go and die, oh. So those things always get to me. Like, hello, I also have what she's living with now. Why you? But as a child, I couldn't do so much to talk about it. I wasn't even sure of what to say. Yeah, child. But growing into senior secondary school, I met this amazing friends that knew, and they still regardlessly they would even play rough play with me and be like, if you fall sick, we'll take you to the sick bay and you will be fine. So that was where it started for me to begin to open up myself and play, and like, wherever, if I perish, I perish, let me just have fun and be good. And one of my major crises I can't forget in such a hurry was the one I had when I was 16. I think my mom actually apologized for having me with sickle cell on that particular hospital during that period I was sick. You know, I recently lost my grandma, and everybody was missing her, and it felt like probably it was just missing grandma's sickness. My cousins too were sick, my uncle too was sick, my mom too was down. So I also took ill, and it wasn't just missing grandma. It was a serious crisis. It was a serious pain episode that I had my left leg, and see what people are always saying that I'm really really I'm bringing Jesus Christ in and being too religious, but that is a story. Outside Christ, I have nothing to say actually. So what happened that day was my mom was like, "This is 4 a.m. Where do you want us to go?" And I was like, "Let's go to church." That was the first thing I said. So I'm sure if I remind her of this thing, she will just laugh and maybe cry and just thank God again. And I was like, let's go to church. And they were having morning prayer. We found out my mom's church is an aged man. So they do like an 1 hour, 30 minutes, a 2 hour morning prayer in their house. So by the time we got to church, they were already praying, they were already singing praise and worship. So we went upstairs, and I told my bishop to pray for me, that I just want him to pray for me. I could still speak a little, so my mom could tell him what I was saying. So after he prayed for me, we went to the hospital. And to the glory of God, yes, I know medicine had a part to play, but God had a major role to play, honestly. Even the doctor was like, you came in with half of your body totally numb. Like I have to move my first leg, use my hand to move my second leg to be able to do anything. I couldn't move the leg or the hand. That same hand I'm using to hold my phone, I can't use the hand that particular day. And I didn't spend up to a week in the hospital. I don't know how it happened. I've had series of news that you are feeling that kind of feeling. They start doing a brain scan for you and things like that. I was perfectly fine after I left church. Just a few drips and some eating pads here and there, and I got better.
Wow.
Even the day I asked my mom to give me my favorite food, because anytime I fall sick, my first food I ask for is amala and maybe fresh. I'm actually a foodie. So by the time I said I couldn't eat for like 2 days, by the time I said I wanted to eat, she was so eager to buy me food. I finished like 2 wraps of amala, big wraps, and she was like, wow, now she knows that I'm fine. And it was people that were coming to visit me were already crying, like maybe I was going to die or something like that. I can remember my school daughter, she was already crying that time she came to visit me, and she was like, Senior Bass, don't leave me. Remember, I'm like, I'm not going anywhere now. This phase too will pass. So that's one of the most scariest. Is that I think I had another one who was scarier again. But the honest truth is that each time you fall into crisis, you fall into painful episode, it's always like, am I going to make it through this time again? That's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the fact that we need to get this word out there. A lot of people need to understand that sickle cell is not fun. It's not, maybe the things you are reading online make it looks like it's so soft and it's so they can take drugs and be fine. No, it's way beyond that. I remember my last is it okay, that's not my last crisis, but I had an injury in my leg sometime around July last year, and it was so bad that my doctor was like, if I don't take my drugs and be fine, he will take out of my bum bum and patch the leg. I was already crying. I knew he had to say that to just get me scared to just use my drugs and eat right and stay one place, because I will not stay one place if he didn't say that to me. You know, I had a little bone on my leg that should just actually heal like every other person's leg. But because of sickle cell, there was no blood supply to that leg. It was really, really terrible and all of that. So, yes.
Wow. That's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. But I think I want you to kind of explain something. You said the word crisis, and I think some people might be watching this and they're like, yeah, you just explained what sickle cell disorder is, but what's crisis? What does that mean? So can you explain, sir?
Okay, we call our painful episode crisis, like the major, you can just call it regular leg pain, but once it's all over your body, you can't move. You just say it's a pain crisis because there's pain everywhere in the body. There's a war happening in the body at the moment. So it's crisis.
Okay, thank you for explaining that, because I just sensed that some people will be like, what does that mean? There's only for Google. She's here. I think one thing I noticed about you is that I know you're an advocate, you speak a lot, about this and stuff like that. But I think your attitude, your personality is just like upbeat, very bubbly. You meet some people and they don't even have something up to this, and you're like, sure, like, is there, but I think something about you is you're very upbeat, you motivated, and you even motivate others. Because I think it's one thing for you to be someone who's motivated, but can you actually motivate other people, as a warrior? So kudos to you, sis. Like, I mean, I know you talked about God earlier, and we'll get into that, a bit later. But I'm sure he has like a factor in, your faith, your personality, your confidence, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So the next thing I kind of want you to speak on is, I know you, because I was listening, guys. So Grace actually has a podcast, and I'm not gonna lie, I have listened to every single one of her.
Wow.
every single I went
you.
to it all, like. But yeah, like, there was so after this live, just check her page and go and listen to the podcast. Like, I mean, it's a vibe, like. It's really, really good. I think in one of the ones that I listened to, you're talking about the stigma associated with, sickle cell and disorder and stuff like that. And I think you already kind of mentioned earlier as well about how, someone was saying something to your classmates and all that kind of stuff. So can you just maybe share with us how it is in Nigeria? What's the stigma like? Maybe when you were younger, were people kind of like, oh, that person is just has that or whatever, and have they changed now? And another thing I want you to kind of touch on is, in one of the podcasts, you talk about how your mom she's very open with people in your community. Like, I think you mentioned an episode where, like, someone asked, like, what's wrong with her? And your mom just came out and said, she has this and that, and just left. She didn't feel ashamed. She didn't feel like she needed to protect her. She just, kind of said it. So yes, can you touch on that?
All right, so regarding the stigma part, I would not say it has changed, but I'll say it's a little better because we don't even have enough awareness. It's when you know something about a particular thing that you can say, oh, okay, just like we had HIV then, people were like, you talk to somebody, if you cough, if they touch you, if you sleep on the same bed with them without having sexual intercourse, you might get infected. And all these things are just misinformation. Once people get the right information, they will not be able to understand that, firstly, sickle cell is not a communicable disease. That you're my friend, that you are related with me, doesn't mean that you can get sickle cell. And the second part, that people have actually tagged a particular look to sickle cell. So
Mm.
even when they meet me and they're like, "You don't look," I'm like, "We don't have an identity. Please stop saying we don't look." It's actually shaming for somebody else that looks that way. It's not their fault that they actually look that way. It's sickle cell does not even have sickle cell has a little role to play in the look of a person. Their DNA has a higher part to play in that, So for that, and then the fact that they fall sick often, they're always sickly. People are like, if you give someone a job now, because it happens in the corporate space. If you give you a job now, can you deliver? Won't you fall sick in the next few days? Won't you do this? Won't you do that? And a lot of time, it is not that way. You need to come closer. Yes, sometimes that we cannot deliver 101%, but on the days that I'm active, I want to be productive. I want to deliver in only at 90%, so that on the days that I'm not available to deliver, Tammy was super active last week. She's down with a crisis this week. Let's give her space. But Nigeria setting, they want you to deliver 101% every blessed day. They forget that you are human too, or that you have a disorder. Then when it comes to relationship parts, my sister, that one is the worst part. You see a lot of people that they want to marry, they are compatible, or probably the guy is AA and the girl is SS. Family comes and say, no, you cannot marry her, oh, she will die soon, oh, don't come and be a widower. No, and I'm like, even you that you are AA, what's your certainty that you're going to live longer than somebody who has to sell? Like,
Word.
who has shown you the lifespan? Why you giving me my lifespan? Are you my God? A lot of these
Hey.
things are what is wrong. And we had a woman that recently passed on, Alaja Onikoyi. She died at 94. And I'm always like, me, I'll live like 110 actually, because she has given the I like the fact that the people brought her to limelight. I'm sure we would have had other people who are older than that had lived with sickle cell and had passed on. But because nobody knew about their story, how like we encourage warriors that if you don't know who's going to be motivated by what you're going to be saying. She lived for 94 years. She had children. She got married. She has grandchildren.
Wow.
Yes. So what hasn't she done? We have a lot of warriors in sickle cell community that they are doctors, they are lawyers. They defiled all the medical means. They went through law school, the stress. We have engineers.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I'm studying a planning course that would need me to be on the field. I remember when we went for our field trip some months ago before the pandemic, and my lecturer was like, "There's no girl here. Oh. All of you are guys in geography. Start climbing the." So you don't have to. The stigma has eaten up deeply, and until we create more awareness, that's the essence of the awareness. The advocacy discussion. That what sickle cell doesn't mean that sickle cell doesn't affect you as a person. It's just the cells that are sickled. So we have lives to live. We have dreams to achieve. We have goals to achieve also.
Yeah. So
And
I'm.
then my mom's parts.
Mhm.
My mom is very, very plain. She doesn't even know how to hide it. I don't know that woman. Even when I don't want her to talk, she just be like,
Just,
only crisis. I'm like, what's that now? I must tell everybody. So I think now that I've grown, she allows me to do the talking. So if I want you to know, fine. If I don't want you to know, just go. But for her, I think why she did that then was because she feels like I don't know who knows the measures that I would do that you will stop having crises, or you would not fall ill often, or I will not see you in pain. So for her, she was just open to like
excuse me.
I don't know who can be of help and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even through her speaking up, there's a friend of ours that throughout my childhood for like 5 years, her husband always bought my paludrin for me
Wow.
from their company. He
Wow.
gave me free paludrin, and paludrin was very, very free because she was speaking up.
Wow.
So there's really nothing there. There's no stigma in the home for me. So they are fine to speak about it.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just cautious of the time and my phone just back. So my phone is giving me signals and all that. So I'll just ask like maybe one or two more questions. I will just leave it at that for now. Or what am I doing
Okay.
after this next question? I might just end this, save it, and then come back again. Just
Oh, okay.
should we maybe try that, or should we just?
Let's just round up so that people
Just
don't have to watch the videos.
the footage could be lost, right? So, I think one of the things I really wanted you to talk about is how your faith in God, how it's been tried and tested over the years, right? And I think this is very, very important, especially in the Christian community. It's important we talk about this because, the Bible tells us about faith. We hear preaching every day about faith, 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 faith. But how do you have faith, when you've been told from a very young age that, okay, you have this disorder? How do you have faith that, okay, tomorrow will be better. I will live long to 100 and even more if Jesus tarry. Can you just speak on that, sis?
Okay, so for me, I always emphasize on this word, and people will be like, "Have you seen the guy?" I say, "What is love? A guy that
Mm,
gave up his life,
mm,
for me to live, that I may be free
mm,
of pain, I may be free of trouble and tribulation. Yes, the pain will
mm,
come. I'm grateful to God for that have blessed us with great songs. Each time I fall into a crisis, I'm always with my phone, plug my earpiece. I don't even want any negative vibe to come in. I don't want any negative thoughts to come in. They
mm,
try to come in. I can't lie. They
mm,
try, and
mm.
then the devil will be like, "Look at you. You're already having pain again." But I'm like, "Shut up. Just live here and just get out." So over the journey, over the time, and then my mom's faith too is like 101%. She's always like, I'm sure the entire prayer she has prayed for me all her life is that I will live long, I'll have children, I'll be blessed, I'll be prosperous. So I tap into her faith when I'm tired and I can't go on. I tap into her faith, my sister, and then myself. And then God has been faithful, honestly. He has been faithful. I don't want to go too deep because it happened to me. But then I just believe that there's a
I-
greater tomorrow. There's a better tomorrow.
we don't want you to cry. I think I just wanted to highlight that you can have, like, the enemy can throw anything at you, but you can still have faith. And I think, Grace, you're such a perfect example because you're so upbeat. Your personality is amazing, and you encourage other people as well, and that is power for me because I know how it is when you yourself, you're like, oh, and then you have to encourage another human being. It's a lot, but you do it so effortlessly, and it's like, kudos to you. And just a word of
To
encouragement
God.
out there: trust in God. Don't listen, like she said, someone lived to like 97 and she has confessed with her mouth. She's told us here now that she will live to 100 and even more. Have that
Yes.
kind of faith, like speaking the word that yes, this can happen. And yes, that's just it. And I think the last thing I want you to kind of touch on is this whole relationship thing. I want you to tell us what did you call it? I think blood genotype, like what kind of blood group, blood genotype can actually get married and what group cannot.
Okay, I'm not in the best position to say that they cannot get married.
No,
Every human
no.
has their
I
rights,
suppose I phrased that question. So, what should people look out for when they're in a relationship
Okay.
when it comes to
All
the
right.
life and all? Yeah.
It's important that, before you go into a relationship with anybody, get to know
Mm-hmm.
their genotype and probably their blood group too. And be sure that you're compatible. But if you want to go ahead, we've had a lot of couples that, what, they're like, we are both not compatible, but we love each other. There are other medical means. Ensure you meet with your doctor. See, don't allow
Mm-hmm.
anybody to guesswork. Yes, people can actually get married and not have children. Like I always say that children are not they are blessings from God. They are not your right. They are your right as Christians too, but then they are blessings of the seed of from God. So if God is saying that I want you to go into the homeless society, pick up a kid, raise that child, love that child, nurture that child. That is enough. So there are a lot of other options in case you're not compatible with your partner, and you want to really go ahead, seek medical advice so that you don't birth a child into this pain. Because honestly, my own concern is the fact that just don't bring another child into this pain because it's a whole lot of mess. Especially in Nigeria, there's no healthcare, um there's no infrastructure for them. There's nothing serious for them. Even the employment um space, excuse me, is nothing to write them about. So just do what you know that is right as a human. Don't bring a child into this pain and say, oh, because Amy is looking good with sickle cell, I can always go ahead and have my own children too.
Okay, okay. So communicate with your partner, speak to your doctor, and they'll be able to tell you like your blood group, your genotype, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So sis, you have my mind has opened. I feel like I don't know everything about it, but I feel like I can answer some question if anyone asks me. And I just love that, this is such a serious topic, but we're able to just be free, laugh, and just to reduce the whole tension that comes with this topic. So I think at this end, unless you have something else to say, I'm happy to just end this live now. Um,
Yeah.
Even though it may seem short, I am assured in my mind that this will bless someone's life. And thank you so much for coming on, sis. I really appreciate it. I
Thank
know,
you.
let me just say it now so that some people, if you watch it to this end, realize that myself and Grace actually recorded this very early in the morning. We spent a few hours trying to look for the best means because IG connection wasn't great. So know that we value the information, we value the knowledge, and it's important for us to put it out there. All right, sis. At this junction, I think I'll just end things and let you get on with
Yeah.
your day. And
Yeah.
for everyone who has watched this and watched it to the very end, thank you so much. God bless you. Make sure you go
Thank
and check out Grace _ Junkie. Go and check out her page. I'll put her link in my story, so just follow that. Go and support her. Listen to her podcast. Like, do whatever you feel led to do. Just pour into her page and share. Give some love. All right, sis. I will speak to
All
you
right.
later. Take care.
Okay. Yeah.